Alright everyone, link in the description to another video that's actually some Venezuelans, I guess, were holding a protest, people who were refugees or expats living in the United States, talking about Venezuela a bit, talking about socialism, and warning the American people flat out, yeah, you shouldn't adopt it here, it's a bad idea. Hey, they promise you all this stuff, and you end up eating your pet, basically. And that's a no-brainer, but I thought the funny part is that people who have actually lived through those systems, you see this in Eastern Europe a lot, generally reject them completely. Meanwhile, in the US or Western Europe that never had a problem with these things, here it's more acceptable. Like over there, if you're waving the hammer and sickle, it could be a little bit of a problem. You might get jumped. Over here, it's like, you know, you're probably just on your way to Starbucks or something. And I find that very, very funny because it shows, like, people who have lived in capitalist systems, I never see them rallying and saying, oh, capitalism is so horrible, you know, I had to make money and shit and you know, big problems. You never really see that. You see some discontent people, but those individuals are almost always the same ones that are applauding socialism. It's a weird thing, and yet people who lived under these systems, they generally denounce them. It's like people who lived behind the you know, Iron Curtain, before the fall of the Soviet Union, you know, parts of Eastern Europe, Central Asia and stuff. There's an aversion in many of those cultures to any mention, really, of communism. Less so in Central Asia, it seems. I think some of those countries are run by communists, actually, so no wonder economically they have problems. You go to Eastern Europe, like I talk to people, because I have a large presence. There are people that talk to me from these places. Overwhelming majority of them are like, yeah, it fucking sucks. Yeah, we're glad when we you know, purge some, you know, communism. We're glad when we burn communist textbooks. I don't believe in book burning, but it's sort of a celebratory thing. Venezuela, I've spoken with people from Venezuela. I've never really seen any of them back up Maduro. I've seen people say, well, you know, the opposition has its problems, and I've pointed that out. The opposition is not capitalistic anyway, so who fucking cares? But I've never seen anyone be like, oh yeah, it's really true, Maduro is a great guy, there's no food shortage, that's just a lie by the imperialistic West, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why the propaganda falls flat. In the internet era, if you have any connection to the internet at all, you can see the protests. You can see pictures and video taken from inside the stores, and I don't just mean from some corporation. See, here's the thing, like 10 years ago even on the internet, if you got that sort of on-the-ground reporting, tendency was it was coming from, like, it was from the AP, or maybe the RT or BBC showed up on the scene, or CNN or something like that. It was a corporation. And so it was easy, like if you're, you know, Maduro-loving socialist, or he's paid you or threatened you into backing him or something, you say, oh yeah, I love the dude. He's a wonderful guy, like he leads our nation, the great Satan's trying to steal our oil or something like that, so we resist them. But now you've got independent, on-the-ground citizen journalism on such a level that it can't be suppressed, and so the word gets out, yes indeed. Here's the riot. It's like, I think a couple of years ago, there was some, well, no, it was an anti-Brexit rally. I remember this. I think it was the BBC reporting on it. It might have been the Telegraph. And remember, there was that YouTube video that their reporting was very closely cropped in on the reporter, and so it looked like there was a massive crowd behind him of people that were rallying against the Brexit. Another person took footage of the exact same moment of reporting. Like, you could even hear the reporter speaking down below to corroborate that it was the same event. If they hadn't closely cropped the shot, there were only a few hundred people there. And yet they're saying, oh yeah, there's huge turnout, swelling crowds opposing Brexit, and in reality it was just a very small rally. This is how the legacy media gets you. It's a form of propaganda. It's not really a lie. It's just that they're not telling you the whole truth, so they're lying in a de facto sense. But now you've got citizen journalism. It's harder to do that. So when Maduro says, oh, there's no food shortage, yeah, food is everywhere. It's like that, the morons from that other fucking show there that I linked out about a week ago. And they're like, oh yeah, the shortage had gone, oh yeah, there was a shortage, but it went away and things were fine until the evil United States put these latest sanctions on our oil. Then all of a sudden food was scarce again. Bullshit. Food was scarce anyway. You living in, you know, in your nice community and getting the extra bowl of rice because that area happened to vote heavily for Maduro, yes, indeed, there's plenty of food. Okay, maybe at your store. The rest of Caracas was out protesting at the time. That's why you didn't see any problems, because you probably don't mill about with the normal people. You don't want to touch the dirty proletarians. Yeah, it's a common thing in the left. The left, I've noticed, there's a hell of a lot of homophobia and sexism on the left. There's also a huge amount of elitism against the working class. You see, it was with Tommy Robinson. He's going to break the BBC's balls in, I think, a day or two. And wait till see what happens with that. I've already got some tags and shit queued up and ready to go when that happens. Meanwhile, Klobuchar gets into the U.S. Election. Nobody gives a fuck. Donald Trump trolls her and she becomes an afterthought instantly. So it's like, fuck it. Then she was abusing her aides. So she should be a socialist because she abuses those around her. So yeah, when the Venezuelan people largely are warning, don't be socialistic, don't listen to Bernie Sanders, AOC is a moron, basically. Yeah, you should be more capitalistic. Yes, keep your guns, keep the taxes low, keep the fucking government out of your life because, you know, it could become tyrannical. Yeah, I'm going to listen to people who've actually lived through it. Yeah, but meanwhile, I don't see many people who have lived under supposedly right-wing governments complaining about all the evils and horrible things that happen. Yeah, there's plenty of shit that happens in this country. Most of it has to do with too much centrality. Police brutality, well, you've got the blue wall of silence. How did that form? A bunch of bureaucrats helped that form. If the cops were held accountable in these inner city areas, we wouldn't have that problem. You know, small town America and people are held accountable. You see relatively a lot less of that. I wonder why. Pro tip, it's not because of racial animus. Sometimes the cop that's offending is non-white. It's like that, what was that instance, it was years and years ago. There were a couple of cops and they like body slammed a pregnant woman and, a baby died and shit. And I think both of those cops were actually minorities at the time. And so it didn't get as much airplay because you see it didn't feed into the line of, racism as opposed to the line of, hey, too much centrality keeps cops from being held accountable in large metropolitan districts because nobody can get answers on what's actually going on, including the city councils usually. So yeah, socialism is a foolish errand. Can't work, never has worked, never will work. Venezuela's collapsing. All these other countries that are, becoming more far left, eventually they'll collapse themselves. Meanwhile, countries that are scaling back that regulation, intervention, and globalism, they'll be shooting ahead. They'll be doing fine. Look at our economy. Peel back some regulations. It's amazing how much investment pours in. Brazil will be doing fine soon. I said like 4 years ago, Brazil should abandon like the socialism light that it had adopted at the time in the wake of Dilma Rousseff and just go full libertarian populist. And that's kind of what they've done. Yeah, good things are ahead. Good days are ahead for them. Meanwhile, in Venezuela, not so much. That's about all. Peace out.